Hi, welcome to another typology interview. We have here Eric Thor. How's it going, Eric Thor?
Oh, it's going well. How's it going with you?
Yeah, going great. Thanks for coming out. I'm really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you. And like you have a YouTube channel. You've been into typology for a while. You have a test online. You're doing a lot of experimenting and investigating. And yeah, so tell me a little bit about your history in typology before we get started.
Yeah, so okay, I've been involved with typology for about 8 years now or something like that. I
Oh, wow.
forgot when it started, but I've been really interested in it for a really long time. And I've been interested in all kinds of models and systems, including, of course, objective personality in the later years.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to redefine a typology as a psychology by connecting it to the study of flow. So I believe everyone has a flow type or a type that represents them when they are in their best mental state, when they are positive, when they have energy, enthusiasm, passion in what they do, and when they are stable and steady in themselves, and when they have confidence in what they are doing. So I define and make a test, like you said, on my website, and I also study archetypes, Jungian archetypes, to build a qualitative understanding of each personality trait and cognitive function.
Right.
Understanding
So
the
we'll put that link in the description and all that, and your YouTube channel. You also studied neo Jungian psychology. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so I started out working together with Christian Johansson at newjungiantypology.com, and we
Oh, okay.
started building a test, and we started studying neuroscience and psychology to gain an understanding of what personality is and how we can define it and understand it in modern terms.
Okay. And what you left there? You're still with there somehow, or
Yeah, like we're still on very good terms, and I still very much like that project. I just left to start up my own website
right?
and the YouTube channel and start exploring it on my own as well.
Nice. So tell us a little bit what neo Jungian psychology is.
So it's really about connecting typology to modern psychology. So it's trying to bring some value to it, which I felt it was often lacking. In the past, I felt typology was purely descriptive. You know, what's the point of defining personality types or functions at all? But sometimes it feels like we're just tossing semantics back and forth. You know, it can be this or it can be that. So what? So what I thought was, okay, we have to connect it to something more meaningful, which is what makes a person happy, what makes a person stressed, what are a person's primary struggles. And I felt no other system until objective personality started coming forward was able to adequately understand personal growth or individual psychology of a personality type.
Right. And then the other thing I noticed that you've been doing is you've been Myers-Briggs, standard Myers-Briggs has 16 types, and you also have 16 types. But Myers-Briggs says you have to have an introverted and an extroverted function to make a type. And you say the opposite. You need either two introverted or two extroverted functions to make a type. Do you have any reasoning why that is true? Or
Yeah, so when we started building personality tests in Neo-Jungian typology, me and Christian, what we noticed was we could never build an accurate cognitive function test. We could never get a person like an INTP to consistently test for both introverted thinking and extroverted intuition. No, most likely what we saw was a person would say, yeah, I am introverted thinking and I'm introverted sensing, or I'm extroverted intuition and I'm extroverted thinking. So we couldn't get a person that would strongly attest to being both introverted and extroverted at the same time. So what we started doing was, okay, we started connecting it to flow, and then we had to see, okay, a flow type in a flow state, you cannot use both an introverted function and an extroverted function at the same time. You end up either using two introverted functions or you end up using two extroverted functions.
I
You're
see.
not using two at the same time. It's not possible.
And what about your weaker function, like your third and your fourth functions? Are they accessible in your system? Are they a place of growth? Are they a place of the opposite of flow? How does that work?
Yeah, so people who use the modern four function stack today run into a lot of confusion when they try to get into my system because they go, what's the dominant, what's the aux, what's the tertiary, what's the
Right.
inferior? What I see and how I see the stack is a definition of one flow function, one inspirational function, one autopilot or stress relief function, and finally one weakness or like a demon in objective personality terms.
Okay. So like the
So
standard so the first one is your flow function,
yeah, one of them. Yeah.
right? And then the second one is your autopilot.
Yeah. No, sorry. The second is the inspirational function.
Inspirational. Okay, so
Yeah.
is there a reason why you called it inspirational?
Because it's something we are always striving towards and aiming high for, but something that we find very difficult to maintain consistently in our lives.
I see. Okay. So like in my type, I would have TINI, and
Yeah.
I would always be aiming for that NI, is what you're saying.
No. So here's the confusion. There's a difference between a flow function and a dominant function or an auxiliary function. So the flow functions, we use four together in sync with each other. So we have four flow functions that all are equally important in your psyche. So
Okay.
you can both see, so when you're in a flow state or the ideal state for an INTP, for example, or in that case, an INTP would use introverted intuition and introverted thinking and thinking perceiving and intuitive perceiving. Those would all be
Oh.
together in a kind of harmony as one
So you
primary
have
idea.
extra functions here. You have thinking, perceiving, and intuitive perceiving.
Yeah, so I ended up adding 8 extra functions to make this possible. What I did was I thought, okay, if introversion and extroversion as an attitude regulates whether an intuitive function or feeling function comes from within or from the outside, then judging and perceiving regulates goals versus adaptation.
So you're all of the functions could either be judging functions or perceiving functions as well, have in addition to them.
Yeah, so this is something I did that would make it a lot easier to understand similarities between, for example, an INTP and an INTJ.
Okay.
And it's also something that distinguishes between an INFJ and an ENFJ. So while in the past it was like, yeah, INFJs and ENFJs basically the same, just there's slight difference in what they prioritize first. Now it's actually two different types because the INFJ is introverted, so their psyche in a state of flow starts inside in that process of defining a concept or a theory and in reflecting on an emotion or a value. And then ENFJ starts with an opportunity or an idea in the external world and in discussing with the tribe, what do you guys think about this? Do you like this or not?
So the judging and the perceiving are charges on, like they're additional charges on the introverted intuition, or it's an extra function entirely.
It's an extra function entirely. It
Oh.
completely changes the personality of a person. Because for an INFJ, if you compare an INFJ to an INFP, like you can say that they are very similar in that they both are introverted and they're both intuitive and they're both feeling. But the INFJ comes from the perspective of tribe goals and tribe values and from harmony. And the INFP comes from self values, authenticity, honesty, my personal needs, and personal values.
And both are using NIFI.
Yes.
Okay.
There's also a big difference in the intuition that INFJ's intuition is long-term and future-oriented and singularistic, where the INFP's is multi-nuanced, variable-oriented, optional, change-oriented.
So is there a translation from MBTI to your system where like the nomenclature is the same, or it's always a completely different system and you need to be retested for your system to see what you're saying about a personality?
So you can look at correlation, like ultimately all systems are trying to describe the exact same things. So
Right.
you can see correlations, of course. We're all trying to understand personality. And I think the MBTI tries to understand values and motivations, but fails because it gets caught in stereotypes a lot. But it's about, I think, a 30% overlap, which is not strong, but it's still there.
I see. Okay. So you're also going against MBTI in a strong way then, much like
Yeah,
what.
I definitely have a lot of issue with the MBTI. I consider it too caught up in describing personality traits and focusing on stereotypical portrayals like are you outgoing or not, or are you reserved or not? Things that I find to be cultural traits that can change and be developed and can depend from person to person,
Right. And okay, so what about other systems that you've discovered over time? Like, do you see any promise in them? Any correlations to yours?
Yes, like I said, I think the most promising system in comparison to my own is objective personality. I already noticed that we type celebrities about 50 to 60% similarly.
Oh, really?
So we have a long, strong overlap, and we have, while we do things slightly differently, I feel often Dave has a quantitative approach to defining a personality trait, like bringing out the most simple characteristic or definition of every single one. And mine is qualitative, like focusing on archetypes and stories surrounding a cognitive function.
I
We
see.
meet kind of in the middle, and we kind of end up getting into a similar endpoint.
Okay. Is there what about like the future of your system and like further development and stuff? Do you feel like it needs more work or it's ready, or what are your plans for the next few years?
I already feel like it's great for personal growth perspectives and for using it in an applied way. Like as an applied psychology, it works. But
Right.
I'm still considering it ongoing research. I probably will for the rest of my life.
Right.
I am a kind of person that is never finished with anything.
Right.
And I always see room for improvement.
And like it's completely free. You're not charging anything at all at this point in time.
No, like I run a Patreon website, patreon.com/Eric Thor,
Okay.
where people can make a donation. And if they do, they can, of course, send questions with your requests and get coaching, or they can get typed and so on. But it's not um, anything I charge for or put up on the website or anything like that. It's
Right.
more for people if they're really curious or want to support me in some way.
So in your system, you're an INFJ, correct?
Yeah.
And then in OP, you're a NEFE. Okay.
Right.
And so like, do you see that you're using more NI or more NE in your life?
I see myself using a lot more NI in my life. The issue I see is on my YouTube videos, I often push myself to talk faster and to be more engaging and more enthusiastic than what I am normally. So I think if you meet me in a personal life setting, one-to-one, I think it's quite clear where I'm coming from, because I always go inside to formulate or get a theory about something, and I'm often in a sleep state in a sense. Processing a concept or taking a week to answer people.
Right. And so, okay, I sort of asked about the personal growth, and you corrected me that it's 4 functions that are your flow functions. So then the other 4 functions, or there's more than other 4 functions. I guess there's 16 functions in your system. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the other 12 functions? How do they come into play?
Yeah, so you have the 4 opposite functions that act as your primary weaknesses in life. Those are
Okay.
the ones that you, like your demons, the ones that you work conscientiously most towards improving and bettering in yourself, the ones that you notably say, I have an issue with remaining attentive and energetic with friends and family members, and being open with other people. I can have difficulty sharing with other people my feelings. I can
So
have
for me,
difficulty.
it would be extroverted sensing, extroverted feeling, and
Yes, that's right.
and then judging feeling and judging sensing.
Yeah.
Right. So then where do the other 8 come into play?
So that's another interesting area that I haven't discovered or gone into so deeply before, but I want to.
Right.
First, you can talk about the ones that share the same attitude as you, but the different values. Those are the ones that are the most, you could call childish. Their primary purpose is stress relief. So they're easy to use. And you do them because, yeah, it's fun and it's easy and it takes no energy and no effort. But it gives you no value. So
No
it gives you
value.
nothing, that no energy, no like passion or
So it's
anything.
not considered flow like what you call flow.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's more like easy relief, easy fun. Like it's laughing or making a joke about something, or just making something, or just taking something easy, in a simple way. It's
Right.
something you use often in autopilot state. So just without thinking, you just go into it.
What about like okay, so OP has animals. Do you have something similar in your system where like boredom or like because you have flow, right? So do you have something similar like stress or things like that in your system?
Yeah, so stress is important for all personality types, of course, but they're most notable in the four opposite functions.
Okay.
Because using those four functions brings you the most stress in your life. Like when you go into extroverted feeling as an INTP, you notably feel stressed and find it difficult and annoying to have to do it. But you also find it, you can also find it, of course, very rewarding. So you are very careful with it, and you're much more cost aware when you go into it. Like not offend somebody, not say something stupid, not reveal too much of myself.
Okay. Um, so what about like collaborations and things like that? Are you still working with other people to develop your test, or it's like a solo project for now?
So I am quite an independent person, and I find it quite difficult to work together with other people, but I love their feedback.
Right.
So I am constantly adjusting everything to the feedback of other people. So
I see.
I try my best to keep, like on the website, I have a chat button where anyone can report in an issue whenever they see it. And I adjust and interpret and use feedback to develop everything.
Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how your functions express themselves, I guess, under your system? How your NI and maybe NP or NJ would express itself?
Right. So NJ is the most close to what Dave Superpowers calls NI. A lot of the time, I feel like
Okay.
his NI definition is the most like my NJ definition, because he focuses on that single idea or organizing an idea. The more you
Okay.
go towards organizing an idea, the more you go towards judging. So seeing when NJ for me is basically building a system of ideas or a theoretical map, like where everything adds up and everything is connected and everything forms a synchronistic whole. So I find that it's a speculative function. I call it the visionary.
Okay.
I tend to emphasize a person like Steve Jobs, or a person that has a strong personal idea of something or how something should be or how they should look,
Right.
and who works very hard towards realizing that idea.
Okay. So like an ENTJ or an ENFJ would also have this NJ.
Yes.
Okay. And then so the NI, how would that be different?
The NI means the concept originates in the self and in one's own world, internal world. It means you take on the archetype of a sage rather than a seeker. So like I work with archetypes, and archetypes are like, ideas that exist all over the world and across history and time. So you can
Okay.
study them in books and anywhere. The sage archetype is the NI archetype as its prime, like the best example of it, or the philosopher,
Okay.
because they question everything. They question concepts and theories. They don't need any real data, any external information or anything to build up these theories. They have, beyond that, they have a confidence in it. Like where an ENFP might say, yeah, that's just speculation, that's just a theory, that's nothing proven, you don't have anything to back that up. An NI type can still have very strong confidence in the theories they formulate. They can have a very strong and secure NI worldview.
Okay.
Uh,
And so then how would your FI be different from FJ then?
So with FI is to me an archetype of a healer,
And so
while
this is your goal function. What did you call it again? Sorry.
FI is to me the archetype of a healer, and
Yeah, but like
FJ.
you called the FI your like the first one you called like you're aiming towards it. You said it was a goal function. You have like a
Oh
name for it.
no, no, sorry, that's the inspirational functions. So
Right.
uh,
So this is your
a
inspirational
goal
function?
function for me is extroverted feeling.
Your inspirational function is extroverted feeling?
Yes, and my flow function is introverted feeling.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I got you. I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, well,
So what
it's a
ends up
completely new
happening,
system. Yeah. So okay, so then
yeah,
let's hear about this FI then. Sorry, I interrupted. You said it's a healer?
yeah. So it's a healer while the FJ is a caregiver. So the FI goes into and tries to understand emotions. They can be preoccupied with their own emotional lives and with what their values and what they like and dislike. They go into the self to formulate, okay, what do I like? What do I value? What is important to me? Who am I? So they are very introspective, interpersonal. They can also be counselors. So they go in to seek self-awareness, but that awareness can, of course, also help explain and find answers to emotional problems and struggles you're facing or another person is facing.
Okay. So then, these are both your like all four of those are your flow functions. That's what you call them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
And
your inspirational
in the
right,
ideal state, you can't really pick them apart from one another. Like they're all interacting together. You can't, like, I take issue with the singularistic approach of cognitive
right,
function theory, where you only focus on, oh, I'm only NI, or I'm only a FE, I'm only TE. Often I think a person is a collection of multiple aspects
right.
all at
Okay,
once.
so then it's kind of going a little bit against Jung saying there's a dominant function. So here you're saying you have four dominant functions, like four flow functions, basically.
Well, Jung did say that he thought he was an introverted intuitive and an introverted thinking type. So he didn't actually necessarily specify that you could only have one of them.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
couldn't himself choose which ones he thought was stronger, NI or TI, in himself.
right. Like, and then he did have the auxiliary function chapter at the end of chapter 10, where he talked about auxiliaries. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you talk about the auxiliary, often the idea is of a parent or a parental figure, or like some kind of higher mentor or somebody that gives you wisdom, or somebody who imparts knowledge on you.
Okay.
So I see it as a valuable or interesting function to look at. And I study it as the inspirational function, that archetype.
That's what you call the inspirational function.
Yes.
Okay. So then for you, what would your inspirational function be?
For example, it would be extroverted intuition and extroverted feeling.
Okay. So the flip of the extroverted flip of your introverted,
Yeah. Same
or the
values.
introverted flip of your
Attitude.
extroverted. Okay.
So you can
Okay.
put that on any type. For you, it would be also extroverted intuition, but extroverted thinking.
Okay. And so those parent functions, how would they work for you then?
They work as something that we strive towards, but we don't always have confidence in ourselves. So we don't have confidence in it. We don't feel secure in it because it's extroverted and it's
Okay.
perceiving, or in your case, it's judging. And that means we value it and we want to have it. And we say, when somebody talks about it, we'll go, yeah, I have that too, or I want that too. But
Okay.
we don't we find it difficult to consistently work towards it and apply it, because we when we do, first we tend to feel very vulnerable. Like we go into it and then we start feeling like, oh, people think I'm stupid, people are like, the tribe will come get me, all those like repressed anxieties come back or come up in that case.
Right.
But they still feel like you're doing something important. So you're always in that tug of war between, should I go for it or it's too difficult?
Okay. So yeah, then you have, so those are four functions is your inspiration function. And then the next four functions are?
They're well described by the tertiary archetype. You know, when you talk about the tertiary, you talk about the child, somebody seeking relief, somebody looking for fun or an easy thing to do, something that comes up in autopilot, you know, like a trickster, like function that just, uh, yeah, comes up very easily.
Okay.
So it comes up in autopilot. It comes up as functions that have the same attitude as you, but different values.
Right. And then, so for you, those would be?
For me, they would be introverted sensing, introverted thinking. They would be thinking judging and sensing judging.
Okay. So like the flipped letter, but the same judging or introverted or extroverted sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then okay, and then the last one you call glass fort,
The weakness functions, the
the
stress
weakness
function.
functions, the stress
Yeah.
function.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are something we conscientiously work very hard towards. Like when you take the demon, like something I like about Davis, he also says people are always peacocking and trying them on and trying to be very good at them. And that's very true. Like you are very conscientious about them. You're very careful with them. You want to do it really well when you use it. And so you want to think you're pretty good at it. But it also makes you very stressed to use it.
Okay.
Like going into it, it's something very difficult and very heavy that you feel I have to do. I have to always take care of everyone. I have to always take care of everyone's feelings. I have to always,
Right.
be aware of other people and engage with other people. But it
So
doesn't always have to be like that. It can also be an insecurity. Like it can also manifest as, oh, I'm so bad at listening to people. I should be more attentive and present, and I should take other people's feelings into consideration. So it's not always a peacock.
right. So OP and MBTI put those as the third and fourth function, and you're putting them as the 15th and 16th, I guess, functions.
Well, I'm not hierarchying them,
Right.
so I don't like the hierarchy version of it. It's like, oh, saying from 1 to 8, these are your functions.
Okay.
Because I think anyone can develop to use any at any point of time, and your development is personal. It's not something you can utilize for a personality type.
Okay. That actually, like, all of this kind of agrees a little bit with Dario Nardi's research in some way. Did you find that as well?
Maybe that's true. Tell me why you think that.
Well, because like he's throwing out traditional MBTI and saying it's better just to look at the way your brain is built on a EEG map, and it'll be far more telling in that way. So you're saying that, like, yeah, it's true. Everybody has all of these functions, and you can all use them and develop them in your own.
Sorry. The battery is falling out.
Okay.
So I have to put it in the charger, so I can't find the charger. Temporary technical hiccup.
I'll just pause it till you get back.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Do you have anything else that, like, we sort of glossed over in your system that you want to sort of present here?
So you mentioned Dario Nardi's EEG patterns.
Yeah.
And something well, actually, I think his research was kind of what got me down this rabbit hole in the first place.
Okay.
Like I did read his book when it came out, Neuroscience of Personality, and it was a very big thing for me at the time when I was studying body language and cognitive functions. But it's something I came to distance myself from a little bit later on.
Okay.
So with it was like I like his theories and I like his approach, and yeah, I do like his work. But I sometimes feel like he is more looking for evidence to back up his own subjective typing of people.
That makes sense, yeah.
Rather than that he is looking for, evidence that personality types exist. So he's starting in the wrong end. Like he should be connecting patterns.
And this is based on the
cognitive
book,
functions.
or based on his work since the book?
Yeah, sorry?
It's based on the book or based on his work since the book that you're saying this?
It's based on the book Neuroscience and Personality,
Right.
not so much work later on. I'm not sure where he's gone since then. I know it was just an experimental study. So I can see that he probably has learned from that and improved a lot since then.
Yeah, most likely.
For me, it was like, like it should be better to just study which neuroscience aspects can be connected to the cognitive functions, not which personality types measure in which EEG scans.
Right. Okay, very interesting. So we'll put all of your links down in the description and all that. Do you have anything to say to everybody, like a last message before we sign off?
I just want to say thanks for inviting me over, and I really enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel I also want to thank you so much for your feedback on the personality test that you gave me just before the start.
Awesome.
Because I really appreciate that It's a test I feel very confident about and very positive about. Like, I think this test has so much merit, but the feedback on it is also what makes it what it is. So
Yeah.
I really do that.
Also like to get feedback from a different type about it is like, because you
So
can't really
valuable.
get that feedback on your own. You need a different types to give you feedback, sort of thing.
Yeah, like obviously what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what people are thinking, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to second guess people, like what will they answer on this question.
Right.
And yeah, that's such a difficult thing to do.
Right.
It really requires you to be able to literally read minds.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Good. Well, best of luck with everything. Thank you so much for coming out. It was a pleasure, and have a good one.
You too.
Bye.